My name is Jess Nielsen. I'm the creative director for Moeller Brew Barn. I went to school at the Columbus College of Art and Design, where I majored in interior design and architecture. I also own the Olivine Design Studio. I'm based in Troy, where I redesign historic storefronts and buildings. So I grew up in Auglaize County, a very small town called New Knoxville, a town of 809 people, I think. I was born and raised there by my parents, and kindergarten through 12th grade is all in the same building. It's that small. It was a great education, it almost felt like a private school because it was so small. Gosh, I've always been a creative person. I've loved any kind of art and design ever since I was young, but I always thought that it would have to be some kind of hobby or just something I did on the side. I don't come from a art family or art-based artistic family per se. Although my dad has always been a woodworker, and that's always been a big portion of inspiration for me, working with him in his wood shop. But once I got in school, my art teachers, they saw something in me, and also my high school English teacher. She really pushed me in the publication staff and the yearbook design crew. They suggested that I look into pursuing it as a career, which I never thought would be something that I would do. I always thought it would just be on the side, but I'm happy to say that this is what I do for a living. I guess the first thing that just came to my mind was I had this set of neon paints, and I would strap up this bag at my house, where I grew up, and we would go out to the woods and we would find this huge rock pile, and we would just sit there and we would paint rocks outside all day long. I always had beads or paints or markers. I always had something artistic or some kind of art medium with me, no matter where I was. My high school art teacher is Mrs. Whitler. She is still the art teacher there today. She's an amazing woman who pushed me further than anybody else could have in my time there at New Knoxville. She really saw opportunity on a lot of fronts, whether it was from art and design in the realm of drawing and painting, all the way down to something like editing in Photoshop or InDesign. My parents were a little nervous, I think. I have a sister, Kara. She's 17 months older than me, and she is a nuclear medicine technologist. And so when I told my parents that I would like to do something in the art and design field, that was a little bit uneasy for them, I think. But I think they talked to my art teachers, and I think they just had to have a little faith that I could take this and run with it. And it turned out pretty good. I think I had them shaken, but it was good. So I played sports all throughout my life through my senior year, and my senior year was jam-packed full. We were fortunate enough to go to state in volleyball and basketball when I played, and we never really had time to tour a lot of colleges. And so I went on a lot of tours with my sister, but they were very traditional colleges, and none of those really ever stuck. I just wasn't into them. And so it was getting down to February, March, April, about this time of my senior year, and I was like, we gotta go on some tours. I gotta get into this. I gotta understand what my thing is. And so toured a couple smaller design schools, and I just wasn't into it, but I took a tour at CCAD, and we toured the glass blowing the glass blowing studio, and the interior design studio. They were pulling material palettes and paint colors, and it wasn't just this residential program, it was commercial based. So it was skyscrapers and healthcare and restaurant design and retail design, and I just lit up. I was like, this is where I need to be. So I remember on the way home telling my parents, this is what I want to do, and I think they were still a little nervous because art and design school is not always the most affordable education, but it was some of the best 4 years of my life. So after that, I graduated with my degree in design, and I started out, while I was there, I interned at Limited Brands, which is now L Brands, but while I was there, I was on the store design and construction team for Bath & Body Works, Henry Bendel, Pink, and Victoria's Secret. And so I was really immersed in the retail design world, based in rollouts. So we would open up, say, 50 stores in a year. all across the country, and then that expanded out throughout the world too. So I was really exposed to all the parts and pieces that it takes to open a retail location at a mall or a standalone store. So that was a wonderful experience. And right after graduation, I was offered a job at WD Partners in Dublin, and they are a retail and architectural design firm. And there we were on the opposite side of it. So we were working with clients, all different clients, not just under one house like L Brands. Stores like Reebok, Scott's Lawn, E-Mart, Gatorade. We had anything from product design to retail spaces that we were designing for, even places like Home Depot and big box stores. So that was a great experience. And then I went out and worked for a company in California for a while called DB Studios. And there we did display design. So something as small as a Pepperidge Farm display within a grocery aisle. So I love that I've had a little bit of everything, a little bit of every piece of the pie when it comes to a store environment. So anything as small as the display to the overall environment, like what kind of perfume are we going to push through the vents to make this store smell amazing? So, yeah. Well, it was a unique situation. I actually worked out of my home office in Ohio, but I would go there every 5 weeks for a week at a time. So I would stay. The office was really close to Laguna Beach, so it was immersing myself in that West Coast culture, which was amazing. But then I would get to come home and be here in Ohio, and it was a great opportunity, and it was pretty ideal for not having kids at the time and just being married and living in Troy. So I had this itch to work on a more local basis, and there were a lot of redevelopment projects in Troy happening at the time, and I can't even remember what the first project was, but I am in love with history, and when new design and historic storytelling and that history there that is so rich, the culture there is so rich, when those two merge, that's kind of my sweet spot. And so a most recent project is the Coleman Allen Saddleman building downtown in Troy. It's the old David Shoes building that people call it. It has a tremendous amount of history with the Civil War era. It was actually an enlistment location for officers back in the, I want to say early 1900s. And so merging that story with the current renovation was really where I came into play. I worked closely with Troy Community Works, which is a local organization that rehabs downtown buildings in Troy. And so I kind of created this story for them, or really told them the history of their own building. And we inspired the whole color palette and finish palette based on the uniform that one of the men would have worn back there when it was an enlistment location. So the Olivine started probably 7 years ago. I was working for the company in California, and I just wasn't loving it, and I wanted to combine all the bits and pieces of what I've done prior and open a design studio that offered local contacts and local organizations the opportunity to really have a local design consultant that could come in and help them with anything from visual merchandising to their whole storefront needing redone, or space planning, or really any kind of piece of their brand that needed improvement. So I got roped into Moeller Brew Barn because I was the designer on the Troy location for Moeller Brew Barn. And so that was a contract position where I worked with my now boss, Tony Scott, and Nick Moeller, the founder of Moeller Brew Barn. We have a church in downtown Troy. That was the first Lutheran church back in 1912 is when the building was erected. And then the addition on the back was put on in 1954. And we had the building, and it was vacant for a while. A couple church congregations rented it after the first Lutheran church moved out. And so the owners had this idea of putting Moeller Brew Barn in a brewery inside of a church. And so in a way, we saved the building because it was slated for demolition, and now we have this amazing experience. So our Moeller in Maria Stein is a very new building, and it's our main distribution facility. But the Troy one is a unique experience because it's this new concept inside of this old building, and we have these amazing stained glass windows, and yet the brewery is in the back, and you can look right down into the brewing process while you're eating or drinking. Yeah, that's an interesting question because the design of a new space is typically from the ground up, and in the instance of the Moeller Brew Barn in Troy, it was a matter of stripping away. It was a matter of stripping away, 100 years of shag carpet and bad paint and curtains and just design choices over the years that were rather questionable. And so infusing our brand into an old building was really interesting because it was stripping away carpet and exposing raw hardwood and adding on not a ton of pieces other than the equipment and the brewing system. And so through that process, I love to honor the details of the church. And so, for example, right when you walk in the front door, there's a memory wall. And there's a ton of frames that we have hung on the wall where people can come in and bring their wedding photo or their confirmation photo or their Bible school photo from that church. We'll hang it on the wall, and we just like to say, hey, we like to honor what happened in this building. Whether it's your photo of you walking out the front doors when you just got married or whatever happened there, whatever is special to you, we'll hang that on the wall because we know there's a lot of stories that were told here, and we want to recognize that. Yeah, I went from the contract position of being the main designer on the project to brand manager, and I was leading the charge between two gals, the Maria Stein location and also the Troy location. And just recently I was promoted to creative director. So it's really an oversight position of leading the brand, and we're only 5 going on 6 years old, so our brand is still very young, but we have a lot of accomplishments under our belt, I would say, and we're only growing that list of things that we have done. We're excited to almost open and announce our 3rd location for a tap room and brewery in the Dayton area, so that's coming very soon. Before I came on board, I think it was still very fresh and new, and we're to that five-year mark where it's ready to freshen things up again. Not that things got to be stagnant, but the more cans you design, the more your presence is noticeable and recognizable in the market. And so we're getting ready, and we're in the thick of going through a core can redesign. And it's fun to be able to see all the elements play out. So it's where we've been, where we are now, where we want to go. And so to be able to put together all of these design components and elements and look at what we love, what we want to keep on doing, what we want to keep on telling, versus what we're kind of done with. Okay, we're exposed in this market. What piece of that market do people love that we can hang on to and continue to tell that story? We do events because we like to celebrate. We are a very strong German-based company, but we recognize that's not everyone. We do events surrounding the 4th of July, St. Patrick's Day, Oktoberfest. Events drive people, and people in this day and age, they're ready to celebrate. I know we just, we're working our way out of COVID, and we've had to be extremely careful with all of that. We get this sense that people are ready to get out and celebrate again, whether that's in the beer garden where they're more comfortable with fresh air, or inside in a general taproom experience environment. I think a lot of people are just scared in general of the idea of saying I'm an artist or I'm a designer. I think the instinct here, just in this area and where I grew up, is, well, that's great, but you're never going to make a living. And then it just kind of dies, which is so sad to me. I think the trick to it is, it's not a trick, it's just something that you have to be okay with or ready for, is the collision of being really great at what you do and being an artist, but being able to put the business side of it together too, to make a living out of it. I get this sense of pride when I attend a community event, no matter what it is. I mean, I'm the person who my babies are only 1 and 3, but every time there's a parade, especially the Troy 4th of July parade, I'm the person who is on the side of the street, like in tears when the flags walk by. My family has quite a few veterans in it, and those kind of moments are what make me proud. And I want my kids to feel that too. So whenever there's anything like a parade or fireworks or the Strawberry Festival or Taste of the Arts, I want to expose them to that. That's important to me. I would say my high school art teacher encouraged me the most in that sector of art. My parents were encouraging me to go to college in general. That was just something that was expected of me. However, my art teacher, she was the one who really pushed me along to go after it a little bit harder. And then I think the influence too of my high school English teacher, Mrs. Oberlander, she saw the graphic side of it too. And so she saw more of the composition design and the overall layout design, and that was what she saw. So that was an interesting combination of the graphic side of things and the fine arts part of things. Without the arts, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair or being filmed right now. And I don't say that because I wouldn't be sitting in the chair because it wouldn't have been designed or look this good. I think we need to get away from the idea of the arts being strictly painting or strictly drawing. The arts is more than just something that you look at. The arts is something that you experience every single day. Even though I went to an art and design school, I came out with an interior design degree, and there was industrial design degrees. That is considered an art because it is design thinking and it's innovation. And so without any kind of innovation, there wouldn't be this camera here videoing me, there wouldn't be this building. It is the core of everything that we do, whether we realize that or not. I would say consider the fact that you should try all of the realms of art. At CCAD, I think the beautiful thing about it is the Foundation Studies program exposes you to all of that. So it's 3D design, 2D design, drawing, painting, it's sculpture, it's a little bit of everything. It's graphic design, it's interior design, it's industrial design. So really you get to kind of feel out what pieces of that you're strongest at, and then go forward with what you think is your career path. But that was one of the reasons why I chose an art school, was because I didn't want to have to deal with a first whole year of gen eds. That felt wasteful to me, and I wanted to be immersed right away in the arts.